The twin suns of Valora Prime burned above the capital city like two golden eyes watching everything below. The air shimmered with heat, and banners of silver and blue fluttered on every tall spire. Today was not an ordinary day. It was the day the Galactic Peace Alliance held its first joint military gathering between humans and the alien kingdoms of the Orion sector. Rows of soldiers stood at attention, their armor polished to perfection. At the far end of the platform stood the human delegation, their faces calm but alert. They had traveled across 4 systems to attend this ceremony. Among them stood Sergeant Daniel Reeve, a quiet man with sharp eyes and a strong heart. His black armor bore the mark of Earth's defense force, worn but well kept, the kind of armor that had seen too many battles and too few celebrations. He was not one for words or show. To him, peace was good, but only if it was built on trust. And that was something the aliens didn't give easily. A low hum filled the air as a sleek, crystalline ship descended from the sky. Its hull gleamed like liquid silver. The alien banners changed color in response, shifting from blue to royal violet, the color of House Seraphine, one of the most powerful dynasties in the known galaxy. Out from the ship stepped Princess Lysera Seraphine, the 33-year-old heir to the Valoran throne. Her skin glowed faintly under the light of the suns, her long hair catching a strange silver hue that almost seemed alive. Her eyes, sharp and pale violet, scanned the human ranks with curiosity and pride. Every movement she made spoke of authority and old power. She had been trained to command since childhood. The crowd of alien nobles and officers bowed deeply. The human soldiers remained straight, their training forbidding any unnecessary motion. Lysera's gaze lingered on them, especially on Daniel, who stood motionless, his helmet under his arm. She smirked slightly. "So these are the humans," she said, her voice clear and cold. "The species that thinks war is won with courage instead of wisdom." A few alien officers chuckled softly. The humans stayed silent. Captain Rowan, the commanding officer of the human team, stepped forward politely. "We are honored to be your allies, Princess Lysera. Humanity seeks peace and understanding." Lysera tilted her head. "Understanding?" she repeated with a laugh that sounded like crystal breaking. "Your kind fights like beasts. You destroy what you don't understand. You call it bravery." Daniel's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. He had seen enough of war to know that pride only made things worse. He just stood there staring at the horizon, letting her words pass. But Lysera noticed the look. She turned her sharp eyes toward him. "You," she said, pointing with one jeweled finger. "You look like one of those quiet ones who think silence hides weakness. What is your name, soldier?" Daniel met her gaze calmly. "Sergeant Daniel Reeve, ma'am, damn," Lysera repeated with a grin. "Is that what you call your superiors?" "How quaint. Tell me, Sergeant, do you think humans deserve to stand beside Valorans in this alliance?" Daniel hesitated. Every eye on the platform turned to him. He could feel the weight of both his people and hers pressing on him like invisible armor. "Deserve?" he said slowly. "Maybe not. But we've earned it. Through sacrifice." The princess raised an elegant brow. "Sacrifice? Such a human word. You speak of it like it is a gift." "It's a price," Daniel said quietly. "One that many of us have already paid." Her expression softened, but only for a heartbeat, before she turned away. "We shall see if your kind's price is worth anything in the days to come." The ceremony continued, filled with speeches and vows, but a quiet tension remained. Daniel could feel the alien officers watching them with faint smiles, the kind of smiles that hid judgment. He didn't blame them. To the Valorans, humans were new players in a vast galaxy of ancient empires. They were small, loud, and rough around the edges. But humans had something the others didn't: persistence. That night, the humans were assigned quarters inside the Royal Training Hall, a grand complex of white stone and glowing crystal. The alien soldiers trained with grace and precision, their moves almost like a dance. When the humans entered, whispers followed. "Clumsy," one alien muttered. "Primitive weapons," said another. "They still use bullets," a third added, laughing. Daniel ignored the whispers. He had heard worse. What mattered was the mission: learn, adapt, and show that humanity belonged here. The next morning, the first joint training exercise began. Princess Lysera herself watched from a high balcony, her gown shining like liquid metal. The human soldiers stood ready in a formation that was solid, but far less elegant than the alien squads. Begin, the instructor shouted. Valoran soldiers moved like shadows, their energy blades cutting through targets with perfect accuracy. The humans used rifles and drones, their movements focused and practical. Where the aliens danced, the humans endured. Where the aliens showed beauty, the humans showed grit. Lizera watched with an unreadable expression. When Daniel's unit completed their section of the exercise, she descended to the field. The air seemed to grow colder as she approached. "You fight like machines," she said to Daniel. "No grace, no style. Only noise and destruction." Daniel looked at the burned targets around him. "We fight to survive, not to look graceful." Lizera circled him, her voice soft but mocking. "Survive. Always the same excuse. Perhaps you should learn from those who fight with purpose, not desperation." He met her gaze, calm and steady. "Maybe," he said. "But when the battle gets real, desperation is what keeps us alive." The soldiers around them fell silent. The tension between the princess and the soldier felt almost electric. Lysera's lips curved into a cold smile. "Then show me, human. Show me your desperation." Without waiting for an answer, she activated her energy staff and pointed it toward him. "A friendly duel. Unless you're afraid." Daniel hesitated. He wasn't supposed to fight royalty. But the challenge was public now. To refuse would mean dishonor, not just for him but for his entire team. He nodded once.
"As you wish, Princess." The duel began.
Lysera moved like light itself, fast and elegant. Daniel relied on instinct and timing. She struck, he blocked. Sparks flew as her energy weapon clashed against his reinforced armor. For every graceful strike she made, Daniel responded with raw strength and patience. The crowd gasped when Daniel sidestepped a powerful blow, catching her staff in one motion and disarming her with quiet efficiency. He stepped back, breathing heavily. "It's over," he said calmly. Lysera's eyes widened for a moment. Then she laughed, not mockingly this time, but with a trace of surprise. "Perhaps you humans are not as simple as I thought." Daniel only nodded and turned away, walking back toward his unit. He didn't need applause. He didn't need approval. From the balcony, alien officers whispered among themselves. The human soldier had stood against the princess and won. But for Daniel, it wasn't victory. It was a reminder that respect was not given, it was earned, and humanity's journey among the stars had just begun. The morning sun rose over Valora Prime, casting a soft, golden glow across the training grounds. The duel from the previous day still lingered in the minds of everyone present. Whispers of the human soldier who dared to stand against Princess Lysera filled the air like static electricity. Some aliens admired him quietly. Others shook their heads at what they considered audacity. Daniel Reeve walked with his helmet under his arm, scanning the training ground with sharp, calculating eyes. His unit was assembling, but his mind wandered to the duel. He had acted on instinct and training, yet he felt no triumph. Victory in a challenge against royalty carried weight. Weight he did not yet fully understand. "Sergeant Reeve," Captain Rowan called. "Report to the command center. There's a briefing you'll want to hear." Daniel nodded and followed. The command center was a dome of polished crystal, glowing faintly from energy conduits running along its walls. Alien officers and human soldiers were already gathered, murmuring quietly. At the center, a massive holographic map projected the entire Orion sector. Princess Lysera appeared at the far end of the room, her presence commanding as always. She studied the map with the same intensity she had used on the training ground. Daniel felt her gaze brush over him, not hostile this time, but evaluating. "Humans," she said finally, her voice sharp and precise. "Your performance yesterday showed resilience, if not elegance. But the galaxy does not wait for lessons in etiquette." Captain Rowan gestured toward the map. "Princess, we received reports of a rogue fleet near the edge of the sector. They've attacked unarmed trading vessels and have begun targeting outposts." Lysera's violet eyes narrowed. "Pirates? Or insurgents?" "Unknown," Rowan replied. "They operate with speed and strategy, striking before any response can be organized. We believe they may be testing the new alliance." A ripple of tension spread across the room. Rogue fleets were rare in the Orion sector, but when they appeared, they were deadly. Alien officers whispered predictions of devastation. Daniel felt the old surge of duty, the same surge that had carried him through countless human battles. Princess Lysera turned to face the humans. "Your kind claims to fight for survival," she said, almost mockingly. "Let us see if survival is enough." She tapped the holographic map and a fleet of small ships appeared in motion. "Your mission," she continued, "is to join our forces. Prove that humans are capable of strategy, not just brute endurance." Daniel's team exchanged glances. They were used to human-led operations, not working under alien command, and certainly not under a princess known for her sharp tongue. "Understood, ma'am," Daniel said. His voice carried quiet confidence. The briefing ended and preparations began immediately. Human and alien ships launched from the spaceports, filling the sky with glowing engines. Daniel's ship was modest compared to the sleek alien vessels, but he trusted the crew and their tactics. As they entered orbit, Daniel noticed Lysera's ship moving in formation. She was watching them closely, her presence a reminder of yesterday's duel. The memory of her smirk and words echoed in his mind, a mix of challenge and curiosity. Suddenly, alarms blared. On the holographic displays, fast-moving vessels appeared, their movements aggressive and unpredictable. Rogue ships. They were small, heavily armed, and clearly trained in evasion. "Formation Delta," Lysera commanded over the comlink. "Intercept and neutralize. Humans, follow my lead." Daniel hesitated for a fraction of a second. The instruction was clear, but humans were used to independent strategies. Still, he followed the order. The first encounter was chaotic. The rogue ships darted between asteroid clusters, firing energy pulses that lit up space like fireworks. Alien ships moved with elegance, weaving through attacks with almost unnatural precision. Human ships fired in bursts, using heavy weapons and coordinated flanking maneuvers. Daniel's ship took a direct hit on the hull. Sparks erupted in the cabin, but the crew remained focused. He directed their movement using evasive tactics learned from countless drills back on Earth. Alien ships came to flank, covering openings. Lysera's voice cut through the comm. "Human ships adjust trajectory. Use the asteroids for cover." Daniel obeyed immediately, finding a narrow path through the rocky debris. The rogue fleet was clever, but human improvisation and alien precision began to overwhelm them. Every ship Daniel commanded worked in perfect harmony with the aliens, each movement saving seconds that meant survival. During a brief pause in the battle, Daniel's ship drifted near Lysera's flagship. He had a clear view of her standing at the bridge, her expression unreadable but her eyes fixed on the battle. She had watched his maneuvers carefully, noting every decision. "You adapt quickly," she said over the comm, almost to herself. "Perhaps humans are not as rigid as I thought." Daniel ignored the comment. Words were irrelevant now. Actions were what mattered. The rogue fleet attempted a last-ditch maneuver, sending a small squadron toward the sector's civilian colony. Daniel's team acted fast. They split the human fleet, creating a blockade between the rogues and the colony. Energy blasts erupted, ships spun and dodged, and the vacuum of space was filled with bright streaks of light. Daniel's strategy relied on patience and precision. He did not chase every attack, but predicted movements, guiding his ships like a conductor guiding an orchestra. Slowly, the rogue fleet faltered, their cohesion breaking. One by one, their ships were disabled or captured. At the battle's end, silence filled the comms. The rogue ships drifted harmlessly, and the human-alien fleet formed a protective ring around the colony. Daniel's chest rose and fell rapidly, adrenaline still coursing through him. Princess Lysera's voice cut through the quiet, now calm, but carrying weight. "Human soldier," she said, "you made choices that preserved lives today. You were not graceful, you were not elegant, but you were effective. That is something I respect." Daniel felt a flicker of surprise. Respect from Lysera Seraphine was rare. He replied simply, "Thank you, Princess. I only did what was necessary." The princess studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. "Perhaps the galaxy underestimates humans. And you, Sergeant, more than most." Captain Rowan approached Daniel once they returned to base. "You performed well," he said quietly. "Better than anyone expected." Daniel looked at the sky where the twin suns of Valora Prime hung low. "We have to do more than perform," he said. "We have to prove that humans can survive and that we can protect more than ourselves." The tension between humans and aliens did not disappear, but the battle had planted the first seeds of trust. For the first time, human soldiers were not just guests or observers. They were allies. Later that night, Daniel returned to his quarters, his mind still buzzing with the day's events. Lysira's duel, her challenge, the rogue fleet. Everything had been a test and humans had passed. Yet he sensed the galaxy held even greater trials ahead. Outside his window, Valora's twin moons rose. The lights of the city shimmered in their reflection, and in the distance he could see the distant shadows of alien fleets patrolling the borders. Daniel knew this was only the beginning. Humanity's journey across the stars would not be easy, but as long as they stayed united and true to their own strengths, there was a chance. And somewhere in the halls of the palace, Princess Lysira studied his every move, intrigued by the human who walked away from her challenge with calm, unshaken dignity. She would watch him closely from now on, not as an enemy, not as a curiosity, but as something new, a soldier who reminded her that strength came in many forms, not all of them beautiful, but all of them necessary. The stars above Valora Prime twinkled quietly, and Daniel Reeve prepared himself for the trials that would follow. The test of alliance had begun, and the galaxy would watch closely to see if humans truly belonged among the stars. The calm after the battle against the rogue fleet lasted only a single day. For Daniel Reeve and his team, the brief quiet was a rare chance to rest, but space offered no real peace. Sensors aboard the human and Valoran ships detected faint energy, readings drifting across the Orion sector, signals that did not match the rogue fleet's signature. Princess Lysira stood at the balcony of her palace quarters, her long silver hair catching the twin sun's last rays. Her violet eyes were sharp, and though the events of the last 2 days had impressed her, she could not ignore a deep unease that tugged at her instincts. Something moved in the dark spaces between systems, something deliberate, and it had not yet revealed itself. In the human quarters, Daniel reviewed the incoming data on a portable console. The patterns were unusual, erratic jumps in energy signatures that suggested intelligence, strategy, and intent. Not random attacks. These signals were precise, almost predatory. "Captain Rowan," Daniel said, looking over his shoulder, "I think we're looking at a larger threat than yesterday's pirates. This feels coordinated." Rowan frowned, leaning over the console. "Agreed. Whoever they are, they're testing our response just as the rogue fleet did. But this feels different, smarter, faster, and more patient." Daniel nodded. "We need to prepare the fleet, integrate human tactics with Valoran formations. The Alliance's survival could depend on how well we can anticipate the enemy." Meanwhile, Princess Lysira had called for a council of her top officers. The large chamber shimmered with holographic displays of ships and planets. Alien generals spoke in quick, precise bursts, their voices blending with Lysira's commands. Daniel and Rowan joined remotely, via secure link, their human voices crisp but slightly out of sync with the alien cadence. Lysira did not address Daniel directly at first, but her gaze lingered on him. The memory of the duel and of his calm defiance still burned in her mind. Human strategies rely on endurance and flexibility. Lysira said aloud, "Alien formations rely on precision and speed. Together we may find balance, or we may fail spectacularly." Daniel's voice came through. "Balance is exactly what we need. We survive by adapting. The enemy will expect rigidity, not improvisation." Lysira's lips curved slightly. "Perhaps you are not as simple as I thought." The next morning, the combined fleet launched from Valora Prime. Human and alien ships sailed side by side, forming a massive shield across the sector's main trade routes. Daniel piloted his ship near the front lines, flanked by his human crew and Valoran escorts. The tension was thick. Every eye scanned the void for movement. Hours passed with no contact. Some alien officers whispered doubts. Humans maintained quiet focus. Daniel felt the same strange thrill he had felt in battle before, anticipation, readiness, and the faintest spark of curiosity about the unknown. Then, without warning, the first strike came. Shadows of massive ships erupted from the dark between asteroids. Unlike the rogue fleet, these vessels were larger, almost organic in appearance, their hulls shifting with a strange, bioluminescent glow. Energy pulses streaked across the void like glowing tentacles. "Engage," Lysira commanded, her voice sharp and commanding over the fleet comms. The battle began immediately. Alien ships moved like living shadows, their speed unmatched. Human ships fired heavy ordnance, creating explosions that lit the darkness like fireworks. Daniel maneuvered his vessel with precision, guiding both human and alien ships to cover vulnerable points and intercept attackers. Despite their combined efforts, the enemy pushed forward with relentless force. Every time a ship struck, it seemed to regenerate or shift its position with unnatural speed. Daniel realized that brute force alone would not work. They needed strategy, coordination, and innovation. He turned to his crew. "We need a distraction, something they won't anticipate. Use the drones to create a false formation, draw them into the asteroid cluster, and cut off their escape." The plan worked. Roguelike ships pursued the decoy drones, weaving through the jagged asteroids. Human fighters struck from hidden angles, while alien ships executed synchronized attacks. One by one, the enemy vessels faltered, but not without resistance. Energy pulses tore through the fleet, damaging both human and alien ships. In the midst of battle, Daniel spotted one massive enemy craft attempting to flank Lysera's flagship. Its size dwarfed anything they had faced before. He made a split-second decision. "I'll intercept," he said. Without waiting for approval, he accelerated his ship directly toward the enemy vessel, weaving through heavy fire. Lysera's comm crackled. "Daniel Reeve, that maneuver is dangerous. Fall back." He ignored the warning. "No time. If I don't act, that ship reaches the fleet." The enemy vessel turned its focus toward him. Daniel relied on speed, timing, and sheer instinct. His ship dodged energy pulses, moving like a shadow among the stars. He guided the human drones to latch onto the enemy hull, deploying electromagnetic charges that disrupted its systems. Sparks and glowing fissures appeared across its surface. The massive ship slowed. Lysera observed from the flagship, her eyes narrowing. Impressive. And reckless. Yet despite her words, there was admiration in her gaze. With a final coordinated strike from human and alien ships, the enemy vessel was neutralized. Daniel's ship, though battered, remained intact. He exhaled slowly, feeling the relief ripple through him. Around him, the fleet regrouped, checking systems and assessing damage. Lysera's voice came through the comms again, calmer now. "Human soldier, today you proved that courage alone is not enough. Strategy and quick thinking matter. You adapted faster than many of my officers," Daniel responded simply. "I only did what was necessary to protect the fleet. That is all." Lysera's eyes seemed to soften slightly, though her composure remained intact. "Perhaps the galaxy needs humans, but not for elegance, but for resilience. Not for beauty, but for the ability to survive and protect." The battle ended as the alien forces retreated, and the massive bioluminescent ships vanished into the darkness of space. The combined fleet had survived, but the sense of unease remained. This enemy was unlike anything they had encountered. Its intelligence, strategy, and patience suggested a force that could challenge entire systems. Back on Valora Prime, repairs began immediately. Human engineers worked side by side with Valoran technicians, sharing knowledge and techniques. Daniel observed quietly, understanding that survival was not just about fighting. It was about cooperation, learning, and respect. That evening, Lysera appeared at the human quarters unexpectedly. Her eyes scanned Daniel's face carefully. "You did well today," she said quietly. "I underestimated humans, and you, but I do not yet trust you fully. Trust must be earned over and over in fire and shadow." Daniel nodded. "I understand, Princess. Trust is not given, it is earned." She studied him a long moment. "Then perhaps we shall see how much humans can endure. The galaxy is full of shadows, Daniel Reeve. Today you faced only the first." Daniel felt the weight of her words. The first battle was over, but the war for survival and respect in the stars had only just begun. He knew the road ahead would test every human and Valoran soldier alike, but he also knew that together they could rise to the challenge. As he looked out at the twin moons of Valora Prime, their pale light reflecting off the shimmering crystal towers, he felt something he had not expected. A quiet hope. Humanity had stepped into a galaxy filled with ancient powers and mysterious threats. They were small, yes, and fragile compared to some, but they were adaptable, persistent, and capable of courage that even seasoned alien warriors could respect. And somewhere nearby, Princess Lysera watched him, intrigued by the human soldier who faced dangers without flinching, who made choices not for glory or fear, but for the lives of others. Perhaps she would not admit it, not yet, but she was beginning to see what humans could bring to the galaxy. Not elegance, not tradition, but a strength that could survive even in the darkest void. The stars above Valora Prime twinkled like silent witnesses, holding secrets yet to be revealed. Shadows waited, intelligence moved unseen, and the galaxy shifted. For Daniel, for Princess Lysera, and for all who stood with them, the trials ahead would demand more than courage. They would demand unity, trust, and the willingness to face the unknown. Together, the planet Xylaris hung like a jewel in the void, its swirling green and purple clouds hiding secrets below. The combined fleet of humans and Velorans had tracked the strange energy signals to this remote world. Sensors showed life forms, but nothing identified. Daniel Reeves' ship glided over the dense clouds, his hand steady on the controls. He had faced rogue fleets and bioluminescent warships, yet there was something unsettling about Xylaris. Captain Rowan's voice came through the comlink. "We'll deploy the ground teams in 30 minutes. Recon reports indicate unusual energy fluctuations near the surface. Prepare for anything." Daniel nodded, checking the equipment. His team of human soldiers, trained for unpredictable environments, readied themselves for descent. Beside him, a squad of Valoran warriors moved with quiet efficiency, their energy armor glinting faintly in the light filtering through the clouds. Princess Lysera appeared on the comm, her tone calm but firm. "This mission is critical. Any failure may compromise the Alliance's credibility. Humans, Velorans, you work together. Daniel Reeve, I expect your team to coordinate with precision." Daniel straightened. "Understood, Princess." As their landing craft pierced the atmosphere, Xylaris revealed its strange beauty. Forests of crystalline trees stretched into the clouds, their branches glowing faintly. Rivers of liquid light flowed across the surface, reflecting the two suns above. Yet the beauty was deceptive. Sensors detected sudden shifts in gravity and bursts of energy that made equipment unstable. The teams disembarked, the ground soft and glowing beneath their feet. Daniel's boots sank slightly into the luminous soil. Around them, alien flora whispered with movement, though no creature was visible. The atmosphere was breathable but tinged with a strange metallic taste. Lysera led from the front, her staff glowing softly. "Stay alert," she said, her eyes scanning the crystalline trees. "Xylaris is alive in ways that defy logic. Its energy flows may help us, or harm us." They moved in formation, humans and Valorans side by side. Daniel noticed the differences immediately. Velorans were silent and fluid, almost blending into the environment. Humans were less graceful but adaptive, using tools and scanners to predict the unstable terrain. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A deep resonant sound echoed across the valley. Crystalline trees vibrated as though responding to the movement. From the forest, shapes emerged. Towering life forms made entirely of crystal, their limbs refracting light in dazzling patterns. "Xylarian sentinels," Lysera whispered. "They guard the planet's energy core. We must proceed carefully." Daniel's heart pounded, but he kept calm. "Formation Delta," he said, signaling his unit. "Observe, don't provoke. We need to move through, not fight if we can avoid it." The sentinels shifted closer, moving with surprising speed for their size. Daniel's team relied on sensors and instinct, weaving through the glowing forest while the Valorans floated past almost invisibly. One misstep triggered a sentinel's attention. Energy pulses surged toward them, lighting up the area with blinding brilliance. Daniel reacted instantly, raising a portable shield that absorbed part of the energy. He gestured for his team to advance cautiously, studying the sentinels' patterns. The aliens weren't mindless. They responded to movement and intention. Lysera approached him, her voice calm yet commanding. "Your instincts are adequate, human. Not perfect, but sufficient. Perhaps there is more to your kind than brute persistence." Daniel met her gaze briefly. "We adapt. That is how we survive." She raised an eyebrow, almost amused. "Adaptation, yes. But survival alone will not earn trust. Only success will." Together, the human and Valoran teams navigated the forest. They reached a clearing where the energy signals originated. At the center stood a massive crystal spire, pulsing with light that seemed to synchronize with the planet's heartbeat. The energy readings were off the charts. "This is the core," Lysera said softly. "Xylaris lives through this crystal. It communicates, protects, and judges all who enter." Daniel studied the spire. He could feel a hum in the air, resonating with his body. "It's alive," he murmured. "And it's aware of us." Suddenly, the spire emitted a blinding flash. Energy arcs danced through the clearing, forming shapes that resembled creatures from another world. The sentinels had not followed them here. Instead, the planet itself was testing them. Focus, Lizera commanded. Don't let it dictate your movements. Analyze patterns, react, but do not hesitate. Daniel signaled his team to mirror his movements. They studied the arcs and found gaps in the energy patterns. Moving in rhythm, they advanced toward the spire, each step careful and deliberate. The Valorans moved almost effortlessly, their agility a natural advantage. Yet the humans' persistence in analysis allowed them to anticipate energy pulses and find safe paths. As they approached the base of the spire, Daniel felt the energy probe against him, probing his mind in subtle ways, asking questions, seeking intentions. He realized that Xylaris did not merely respond to physical presence. It responded to purpose, to honesty, and to courage. Lysera moved beside him, her staff glowing brighter. "Do you feel it?" she asked. "It tests not your strength, but your essence." "Why are you here?" Daniel straightened. "To survive, to protect, and to prove that humans are worthy allies." The spire pulsed again, softer this time. The energy arcs faded and a passage opened, a tunnel lined with shimmering crystal walls. "It accepts your purpose," Lysera said, her voice low. "Few have made it this far. Fewer still with humans at their side." They advanced through the tunnel, alert to the faint vibrations and whispers in the crystal. The tunnel ended in a cavern where a glowing orb floated, radiating warmth and light. The orb's surface shifted, displaying visions, past battles, future threats, and moments of bravery from countless beings across the galaxy. "This is Xylaris' memory," Lysera said reverently. "It stores knowledge, power, and judgment. You may learn, or fail." Daniel stepped forward, placing his hand near the orb. Images of Earth, of human courage, of sacrifices and unity flashed before him. The orb seemed to pulse with recognition, acknowledging the human spirit. Lysera observed quietly. "It has accepted you," she said softly. "Not as equals yet, but as beings capable of understanding and respect." The team collected samples and recorded data. As they prepared to leave, a sudden quake shook the cavern. Energy spikes surged unpredictably, sending beams of light through the walls. "Evacuate," Daniel shouted, guiding his team with precision. Humans and Valorans worked together, mirroring each other's movements to avoid the surging energy. Lysera floated past them effortlessly, yet even she respected Daniel's commands, allowing him to lead the retreat. Outside, the clearing had changed. Crystalline trees shimmered with new colors as though acknowledging the team's success. The sentinels remained at the edges, silent but no longer threatening. Daniel exhaled, feeling the weight of the experience settle in. "We survived," he said quietly. "Together." Lysera turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting the alien landscape. "Together," she repeated, a faint smile crossing her lips. "Perhaps humans can teach even Valorans something about perseverance and courage." Daniel offered a small nod. "And perhaps even you can learn that strength comes in many forms." She studied him for a moment longer, her expression unreadable, then turned toward the fleet waiting above. "Return to your ships. The galaxy will not wait for celebrations. More tests lie ahead." As the human and Valoran teams ascended into orbit, Daniel glanced back at Xylaris. Its glowing forests and pulsing spire were a reminder. The universe was alive, mysterious, and full of challenges. Yet for the first time, he felt a deep connection to the planet, to the Alliance, and to the promise of what humans could achieve among the stars. The twin suns of Valora Prime hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the crystalline city. Daniel Reeves stood on the observation balcony of the palace, his black armor polished but scratched from recent battles. Beside him, Princess Lysera Seraphine watched the horizon with quiet intensity. The events on Xylaris and the battle against the rogue fleets had brought them closer in understanding. Not as friends, but as allies forced to respect each other's strengths. "Humans are persistent," Lysera said finally, her voice calm yet firm. "You fight in ways we do not anticipate, yet succeed where others fail. Your methods are unpredictable." Daniel turned to her, his expression neutral. "We survive by adapting, Princess. We do not rely on elegance or tradition alone. Survival demands choices, sometimes hard ones." Lysera's violet eyes studied him. For a moment, the playful arrogance of her earlier mockery was gone. "Choices, yes. And sometimes they are as much about pride as survival." Daniel nodded slightly, feeling the weight of her words. Pride had brought them this far, But arrogance could destroy everything. The comm system crackled suddenly, interrupting the moment. "Sergeant Reeve, Princess Lysera," Captain Rowan's voice said urgently. "We've detected a fleet approaching from the outer rim, larger than anything we've seen. They're moving fast and with intent. Intelligence suggests they are the true force behind the attacks. A coalition of warlords united for a single purpose: control of the sector." Lysera's lips pressed into a thin line. So the shadows revealed themselves. "We have been merely bait." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then we cannot hesitate. We face them together." The fleet assembled quickly, humans and Valorans side by side. Ships of all sizes and designs glimmered in the setting suns. Daniel's ship took a position near the front, flanked by the Valoran escorts. The tension was palpable. Every commander knew the coming battle could decide the fate of the Alliance and perhaps the safety of countless systems. "Remember," Lysera commanded over the comms, "this is not a simple engagement. The enemy is skilled, ruthless, and coordinated. Humans, Valorans can act as one. Failure is not an option." Daniel studied the enemy fleet through his viewport. Massive ships bristling with weapons and energy shields advanced with terrifying precision. He felt the old surge of adrenaline. Fear, yes, but also determination. "Steady," he murmured to his crew. "We fight smart, we fight together, and we protect our allies." Every move counts. The battle erupted suddenly. Energy beams lanced through the void. Ships spun and dodged, and explosions lit the darkness like lightning. Daniel guided his fleet with skill, anticipating enemy maneuvers and issuing commands to block flanking attacks. Valoran ships moved like shadows, striking with grace and precision. Human vessels complemented them with brute force, improvisation, and tactical ingenuity. Slowly, the coalition of warlords began to falter, unable to predict the combined strategies. Amid the chaos, Daniel noticed an enemy frigate attempting a daring maneuver toward Lysera's flagship. Without hesitation, he called his squad. "Intercept. I'll lead the way." Lysera's voice came through, sharp and surprised. "Daniel Reeve." "That is reckless, Princess," he replied calmly. "I cannot let it reach you." Daniel's ship accelerated through the chaos, weaving between beams and debris. He deployed drones to distract the frigate's targeting systems and launched EMP charges that disrupted its shields. The massive vessel faltered, leaving it vulnerable to coordinated attacks from Valoran ships. The frigate exploded in a brilliant flash, and Daniel's ship barely escaped the debris. He exhaled, the adrenaline still coursing through him. Over the comms, Lysera's voice was quieter, tinged with something like admiration. "You act without hesitation, yet with precision. Humans. You are unpredictable, yet effective." Daniel replied simply, "Effectiveness comes from purpose, Princess. Not pride. Not arrogance." The battle continued for hours, each moment testing the fleet's endurance, strategy, and unity. Daniel and Lysera coordinated action seamlessly, their mutual respect growing. Alien and human soldiers learned to anticipate each other's movements, covering weaknesses and capitalizing on strengths. Finally, the enemy flagship, massive, bristling with weapons, and clearly the coalition's command center, appeared. Its energy shields were near impenetrable. Lysera studied it carefully. "We need more than brute force," she said. "We need precision, timing, and courage." Daniel's eyes met hers through the comm. "Then we act together. I'll create an opening. You and your fleet strike at its core." Lysera nodded once. "Do not underestimate the risk, human soldier." Daniel's lips pressed into a thin line. "Neither do I." With a burst of speed, Daniel led a squadron of human ships directly toward the flagship. Energy beams tore past them, and several human vessels took heavy damage. But Daniel's team pressed forward, drawing the enemy's fire and creating a temporary gap in their defenses. Lysera's fleet moved through the opening like liquid silver. Energy beams from Valoran ships targeted critical points, while human firepower exploited the weaknesses. Daniel guided drones to disrupt the flagship's systems from within. The massive vessel shook violently as energy arcs erupted along its hull. At the crucial moment, Lysera activated a focused energy strike, piercing the flagship's core. A blinding flash consumed the ship, and then silence fell across the battlefield. The enemy fleet, leaderless and disoriented, began to retreat. Daniel's squadron regrouped, battered but intact. The fleet formed a protective ring around the sector, confirming that the coalition's forces had withdrawn. For the first time in days, there was space to breathe, to reflect on what had been achieved. Lysera's voice came through the comms, calm but unmistakably sincere. Daniel Reeve, your actions saved countless lives today. You acted with courage, intelligence, and discipline. You have earned respect, not only mine, but of the entire Valoran fleet. Daniel felt a weight lift from his shoulders. I only did what had to be done. Humans fight for survival, Princess, but also for something worth protecting. That is all. Lysera's violet eyes softened slightly. Perhaps there is more to your species than I once believed. Not elegance, not tradition, but strength, resilience, and honor. For a moment they were silent, the comms quiet but filled with unspoken understanding. Daniel realized something profound. Respect, once earned, carried more weight than victory in a duel, or even in battle. Later, on the observation balcony of the palace, Lysera approached Daniel in person. The city shimmered below, bathed in the golden light of the twin suns. You walked away from me once, she said softly. After our first duel, without armor, without ceremony. That took courage? Or perhaps confidence few possess? Daniel nodded, remembering the moment clearly. I did not walk away from you, Princess. I walked toward what mattered. Survival, honor, and proving that humans have a place in this galaxy. She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable, then allowed a faint smile. Perhaps we are not so different, you and I. Both tested, both measured, both seeking understanding in a galaxy that rarely offers it. Daniel met her gaze steadily. Understanding is earned, and respect even more so. Lysera nodded, the formality of royalty replaced for a moment by genuine acknowledgement. Then perhaps our alliance is stronger than any of us imagined. Humans, Velerans, together we may face the shadows that lurk in the void and survive. The twin suns dipped lower, casting long golden reflections across the crystal towers. Daniel knew the challenges would not end. The galaxy held mysteries, dangers, and choices that would test all of them. But for the first time he felt certain of one truth. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through arrogance, not through force alone, but through resilience, courage, and integrity.